video, we're gonna make Malaysian style sticky short ribs. And it's a really great sort of Asian inspired dish. And we're gonna be using actually boneless short ribs for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and start browning them. And then we'll get this whole thing going. I have a pan here that I've got some just regular vegetable oil. It's nice and, it's at that smoking point, and I want it to really be nice and hot so I can sear nicely. And as you can see, I have a really big pan because I want to give the beef a lot of space to really brown. I've taken the beef and I've also patted on paper towels so that I can get all that extra moisture off. That's really going to help the browning process and really get this thing to really brown nicely and get us a lot of flavor. Now, one of the things, if you're one of our Hawaii viewers, you might be thinking when I say short ribs, I'm talking about the thin cut Korean style with the 3 bones. And those are known as flanken cut. We're not going to be doing that. These are actual big, nice, boneless short rib chunks that we're going to be doing. I've cut these into roughly 2-inch pieces. 2 by 2 squares, and now we're gonna get them nice and brown. See how I was able to keep all of the meat in a single layer, and there's nice space between all the pieces here. That way it's not gonna steam, and it's gonna really give you some nice good caramelization. When you're doing the browning, you really want to let it take its time. You don't want to rush the process, so I'm going to really let this brown up, and I'll come back and I'll show you as we're getting good caramelization what we're looking for, and then we'll go ahead and move the process forward. At this point, we're starting to turn the pieces of meat, and I'm going to just keep working them slowly in small batches until I get all of the sides nice and brown. This browning is really what's going to add a lot of that savory, meaty quality. So again, don't rush this part of the process. It will take some time, but this is really where the cooking happens. Okay, we're going to take all the meat out. It's nice and brown, and we're going to move on to the next step. There's a lot of some of the grease from that we're using to brown the beef, and some of the actual fat from the beef has come out. So I want to take that out, and then we'll go ahead and get the sauce started. For those of you that are used to making short ribs with a more traditional style with tomato paste and stock, I thought this would be a fun one to do because it doesn't require you to have a brown stock, and sometimes a brown stock, although very great, can be time consuming to make. So this is going to be something you can do without having to have that stock available. Now we have the pan. All of this brown here, this is fond, and that's flavor. So we don't want to throw that out. You don't want to scrape that out. You want to get that into the actual sauce. I'm going to throw in some garlic to get started here. I have a little bit of ginger that's going to go in. And now I'm going to add some sake, and it'll deglaze the pan. And all that flavor is starting to go into our sauce. This is a little meat in. I have some sugar. This is oyster sauce we're going to put in. This is some soy sauce or shoyu. Sesame oil. And then here's what's kind of what gives it some of that Malaysian inspired flavor. The oyster sauce is part of that. And then I have a cinnamon stick that's going to go in. We have 2 Chinese 5-spice or star anise. And then I have some dried chili peppers that are going to go in. We're going to bring this all together, and that'll be the basis for our sauce. I'm going to bring this up to a boil. Now I also have some green onions that's gonna go in. Go ahead and cut those up real quick. And then we're gonna add this to the pan. What we're gonna do is we're gonna braise this in the oven. So what's gonna happen is a braise is a large cut of meat like this, a big piece, that's gonna be partially submerged in liquid. So what I'm gonna do is, once this comes up to a simmer, I'm gonna put the meat back in, and I wanna see how much liquid there is in a relationship to the pieces of meat. And I may add a little bit of water to bring the level up. Then we're gonna cover it, and then we're gonna put it in the oven, and we're gonna slowly cook these so that they can be very tender, and all of the flavors go together. So now I'm putting it back in. I'm gonna add the juice that's come out. I'm gonna add this back to the pan because that's all flavor. And I want the liquid to come up to just about 1/3 of the way. So looking in the pan here, I need to add a little bit of flavor. Now you can, if you want to, you can add some chicken stock or chicken broth. I'm gonna add water because what's gonna happen is I'm gonna get this all braised, and then I'm gonna reduce the sauce, what's left, to make a glaze for this, for the ribs. So I've got a little water that's gonna go in. Okay. At this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover it tightly. You wanna really cover it tightly so that it doesn't dry out the product on the inside. Then we're gonna slowly braise it in the oven until it's fork tender. Once it's fork tender, it's gonna come out. We'll adjust the sauce if we need to make it a glaze, and then we're gonna serve it with some coconut jasmine rice. So we'll be right back. The short ribs have been braising in the oven, and I just took them out. And now I wanted to take a look at them and just get a sense of where they're at. They're nice and fork tender. And what I just did was I took the sauce that's here, and I just want to reduce it just a little bit so that it glazes a little bit better. So I'm turning the heat up. One thing to note, when you're braising this in the oven, every so often you should check them and turn the meat because you want it to glaze as it's braising. And should the liquid reduce down to a point where it's gonna dry up, it's okay to add a little bit more water just so you can keep the product moist and cooking. So I'm almost there. I just want a little bit more, a little bit thicker consistency. While that's reducing a little bit, I'm gonna get some garnish ready. I have made some coconut jasmine rice, and then I have some toasted coconut. I'm gonna go ahead and quickly just put together some green onions for garnish. And that should be good right here. Okay. So I've got my rice here. Got my sauce ready. I'm gonna take a piece. Put it on a plate. Probably put 2 pieces. 2 or 3, depending on how, if it's an appetizer you're doing or you're doing an entree. I want to put 3 pieces here. Stack them up nicely. And then I want to put some sauce. Glaze it with the sauce. Can't put too much sauce, actually. I love the sauce. And what I'm smelling now is I'm smelling ginger. I'm definitely smelling that star anise. There's that hint of cinnamon, the sweet spices. Green onions are gonna go on a plate. I have the toasted coconut that's gonna go on my jasmine rice. And there you have it, a nice, wonderful, kind of very hearty dish that I am now going to enjoy. Remember now, for more recipes like this, visit us at foodland.com.